Hello everyone, this is Audrey, and for my third course share, I'm going to introduce Tactilingo. What is Tactilingo? It is a grammar-based website that provides activities that come in the form of games through jumbled sentences, matching games, and categorizing games. I also found in my exploration that there are conjugation and number as well as expression games. And to me, this is the perfect example of tutorial call, and I'll talk more about this later on. It is a free tool that accepts donations, and I found that it must have been created in late 2018 to 2019. And the claims of this website are that this tool helps students learn their vocabulary and grammar in context through combining grammar and vocabulary, using conjugations and putting sentences in syntactical order, and it would fill the gap for games of that sort that do not exist. And I'm not sure, this to me seems like things that are available on tools that come with books. So perhaps this person has not been using a book as a resource in the class, because I believe that there are similar exercises or games or practices in software such as VHL or MindTap, which are some that we use in our French classes. But that remains to be answered. I don't know. And then there are no hardware or software requirements for this tool. Now we're going to focus on the technological features. And as far as simplicity of installation or access, it's really easy. You just need to type in the address in the web browser, and it's easy to navigate. There are instructions on how to use and how to create games and activities on the website. And yeah, you can just close it if you don't want to look at it anymore. Speed of program, tool, and resource operations, as well as reliability of operations. I put a little X here because even though you can just start it up really easily, when I was creating activities, I did encounter some glitches and some lags. So I was trying to click on one of the created games by another person who uses the community, and it kicked me back to the home page. So that was an issue on multiple games. And then when I was creating one of the activities, it sometimes lagged. So I had this little wheel that kept turning and I had to refresh the page. So that was kind of a problem because then I lost the things that I created. As far as platform compatibility goes, as I mentioned, it's a browser version, and the reason why I chose to put an X here is because it is not available on mobile devices, not available on iPads or phones, and so that prevents learning on the go. As far as screen management goes, aesthetically I also put an X, and as far as navigational transparency, it's not the most beautiful design. It looks a little bit old, as you will see, and sometimes on the teacher side, it's a little confusing to navigate. But the user interface overall, from a student perspective, you can navigate it you can use it pretty easily. And there is access to online help. There's a whole YouTube page with short videos explaining how to create certain games, how to do certain things on the website. And when I had to reset my password because I forgot it, the person in charge was really responsive, and I have been receiving several emails about the website. And then finally, exploitation of computer potential. It's very basic. Again, I put an X here because there's no speech recognition or synthesis. It's very basic. It does keep student records, So when the student completed the activity, it marks as completed, and so you can see that. But that's pretty much it. So moving on to pedagogical or authoring features. I found that in that section, it only really fit the collaborative portion of the description because it's a game. And then as far as activity features, you could focus, if you want, on the linguistic portion, you could focus on syntax, lexis, morphology, and to some extent pronunciation, in the sense that you would just be listening to an audio clip and the student would be repeating, but there would be no feedback because, like I said, there's no speech recognition. For the language skills, you could work on reading, listening, writing, and translating. Actually, no writing. I should take that out. The pragmatic focus, I really didn't find any. And then cultural focus will depend on what you're trying to accomplish with that game. So it could be literature-based, it could be film-based, anything that you want to make out of this. And then, again, depending on your objective and what you want to do with a task, it could be supplementary, complementary, central to your curriculum. However, for me, if I'm thinking about this, it could be a supplemental tool that I would give my students for extra practice. Okay, so as far as teacher fit goes, it's definitely a grammar-based tool, and it's a perfect example of tutorial call because, for example, in the matching activities, you just move one of the tiles and you try to fit it in, and it just kind of kicks you off if it's not the right one. And then once you've completed the activity, it just tells you, great, you've completed this activity, and that's pretty much it. It is extremely time-consuming to prepare, and there's limited flexibility and creativity on that side. I spend a lot of time trying to figure out, okay, what words do I need for my activity? Are they already in the list that are available? So that was quite frustrating. As far as authenticity goes, authenticity of tasks, I don't think is very authentic. But in terms of language input, because you have access to games from the community and other teachers, it provides input that is authentic. So one of the people who uses it is from Francophone Canada. And so you can hear that accent, and there's also vocabulary that's very specific to Canada. And the activity in question was winter activity, so that's a big thing over there, and so that's helpful in that sense. Grammaticality, again, and typos, you're relying on something that was created by a teacher and not necessarily reviewed by a peer, and so you might encounter problems with that. All right, for learner fit, let's talk about that. And linguistic level, you could really create activities for any level, but I think it's more suited to basic levels. I was thinking originally this would be great for my 400 writing class, my 400 level writing class, because we could work on putting sentences together, but it would require me to come up with all the words that are missing, even just possessive pronouns. They're not in the list. And so I'd have to go and create it, and so that's very time-consuming. And then I'd have to think through. It's not very intuitive in the creation process, as you will see. So maybe it's more suited to basic levels. And then the response handling was also very basic. Like I said, the error correction was great. You finished the activity. And then adaptation to individual learner differences in different contexts. Again, it could be for any level, any interest, any learning goal. If you want to do LSP, I'm not sure about heritage language learning. But again, it could be catered to any kind of learner. I created a vocabulary list and an activity for my business French, so that would fit in the LSP category. As far as learning styles, I would definitely say it's for field-dependent learning, and it could be deductive and inductive reasoning. depending on how you organize your task, right? If you could do this before looking at a grammar point or after. And then the strategies that are focused on are rehearsing and repetition and nothing more. And it's definitely individual work that you're doing with the computer as a tutor. And then the learner control is really virtually inexistent. Okay, so before we look at the takeaways, I'm going to actually show you what the website looks like. All right, so this is the page that you can go to once you type tactilingo.com. And so this is information about the website and what it claims to be able to achieve. So you have information about the student benefits and the teacher benefits, how it works, and then testimonials here. And then I'll show you what it looks like from the teacher perspective. So this is the page basically. And then I have the home, a glossary, instructions, terms and policies, and this is where you would find parental consent forms and other things like that. And then I can preview games, I can create games, copy them, and manage students. So this is where I would find what everybody has already created. And so I'll show you this first one as an example, and this is a perfect example of a matching game. And this is what I was telling you about when I get kicked off when I put the wrong answer. So then I would select the right one, which is to shave right here. And then I just keep going until I'm done. The instructions are right here. I can reset the game, I can exit the game, and then I have the timer right here. Okay, so I'll go back to the home to continue showing you kind of what a game creation looks like. And I've already created one, and this is the options that you have. You can create 3 different types of game: a matching, categorizing, and sentence game template. And this doesn't offer any kind of pre-created template, so I'd have to create my own. Okay. And then here is where I would manage my students. I'd have to add the student by name and all this kind of information. I can also manage my class. So I have a class here and I haven't assigned anything. And that's pretty much it for that. It's pretty basic and there's no, it's not integrated with any kind of LMS. The last thing I wanted to show you was the YouTube page, in which there are a lot of tutorials on how to use Tactilingo and how to create activities. Okay, so to conclude, let's look at the takeaways. I will start with limitations and try to end on a positive note. For me, I think it was a good concept, but it definitely lacks development. It's very time-consuming and frustrating to create activities, and it's not very intuitive. The design, as you probably noticed, looks a little bit old, and there's vocabulary that's specific to the app, so I feel like in that sense there is kind of a learning curve. I don't know the difference between a sim tile and another type of tile. Some of the pictures, I didn't show you this, but they can be a little bit confusing when you're doing the matching game. There are some glitches in the system, and it seems to have been created by one person, which is fine, but I think it would benefit from more creators and more technological and pedagogical input. And then it's limited to web browsers, so that's not adapted to learning on the go. But the strengths are that there's a YouTube channel with a lot of demos on how to use the website. It's a community where users can share their games. I like the color-coded aspect of using gender, which can be helpful for visual learners. There are audio files with different speakers and different accents. There's a timer on activities. You can switch between different languages, and it could be really good for K through 12 because it has parental consent form. So that is the end of my course share number 3. Let me know your thoughts on Tactilingo. Merci.